I was I was thinking that if I record them and put them up, then you guys can get more value.
Yeah,
So
I can review when I forget.
so let's take a look at your game. And this was Son of a Madge. Do you know either of these, or did you just play
No.
online? Okay, so
Yeah.
they're both online. All right. So when we look at this game, the computer doesn't really find this mistake, but I still remember the human way of like thinking and teaching, right? Like these are before the AI teachings, right? And
Hmm.
the idea is that when we look between this and we look between this, which one has more value, more opportunity?
The left.
Yeah, so when we have two Komokus, two of these three four stones facing each
Mhm.
other, um, the more value would be on this side. So by approaching here, you can see you're building and like limiting him, right? Especially if it just went out to like this common Joseki.
Yeah, my reasoning to play the other one,
Mm-hmm.
which now I know is wrong, was that if white made an enclosure on the left side with the c5, it would be facing the right side. So I wanted to make the right side smaller for white, and I would and my Joseki playing k3. So that would be the point that the left side enclosure would be interested in.
Mm.
And that's why I chose it. But I see that
Okay.
the
Yeah, I mean
frequency is the larger side.
if you want to play this way, this is fine. I'm just giving you the more traditional teachings, right? Like we're always looking for the biggest moves, and traditionally this side hat just has more value for both players, and so whoever plays over here first is going to get the more of the value.
Yeah.
But once again, the computer, I think it said it was like 0.1, right? Like negative, which is
Mhm.
nothing. It's not even a mistake. So I can't really complain too much. The only thing I can do is teach you what I've learned, right? What I've
Yeah.
been taught. And so I do it's for me, this is still the side that we both want. Whereas this side is just where white wants, right? And so that's why you played here, right? As you said, when
Mhm.
white finishes here, this is the area that's
Yeah.
he's gonna want. So I get you wanting to break it up. But maybe that's a little too early to break it up. But either way, I just wanted to teach you what I was taught.
Mhm.
All right, so we'll move on to the next one. So with this move, have has anyone ever discussed this move with you?
I forgot about it.
Okay, yeah, it's no problem.
Yeah.
So traditionally, we would usually play like this.
Mhm.
So this is like the old school way of us playing, right? But nowadays, with the computer being as good as it is, instead of it instead of white playing here and giving black a good position, this is a very strong position for black. White now plays forward and then black plays forward. And so now there's actually a pretty big weakness here. Um, and so later on in the game, or even early in the game, um, if white just pokes like this and comes down, or maybe white threatens to come under and then pokes at this and then makes some type of funky shape, then we look and see that black is just kind of like a stick, right? And so it's not getting as much value as it should. And just what happened in the game later, the same thing happened, right? Where he approached
Mhm.
and then he peeped and then you became this stick. So what used to be a useful wall in position it was is now just kind of a burden, right? I'm sure you felt some pressure here
Yeah.
when you were playing this game, like to try and live. So it's all because of this one quick turn here. If you want to use the Hane here early, then usually you'll play this double Hane Joseki. Are you familiar with this one?
Yes. This one I know.
Yeah, so this one is if you want to take the corner very early, then that's fine. You can just play this double Hane. and then he'll get the Panuki on the outside, and then you're good to go. You just get a full corner, and then he has a really nice outside on the side. But we usually don't see this unless you're going to play the double Hane. If you're considering just making a wall here to build this way, then you can just play this, and it looks pretty lackadaisical, right? Like it looks pretty like, oh, this is like not a lot of pressure on white here. But you get Sente like right away, right? And so you can just play whatever you want. You can press over here.
So sometimes when I play Q15, the opponent, I know the right move is the one you're showing. Yeah, they play this, and then I feel cheated.
So this is the other thing that's great about this move. So let's talk about it. First off, well, I'll just show you this, right? So if you attach here, and white's next move is this, right? And let's say it's the same exact thing. Well, now when white peeps here, you're a lot stronger than what you were when you had two stones. When you had two stones, you're a lot weaker and you feel like you have to connect. But now you actually can do lots of like counterattack moves against this one stone. And even if you do connect, look at the long stretch it has to do to get down here now, right? You'd easily be able to cut these apart. So when we look at what happened in the game, this weakness is much more apparent now, right? Because he gets this nice snipe move connection. And it just makes white a lot stronger, and black's really not getting much here. But when we have the extra stone, so 3 stones, now this weakness doesn't really feel like a weakness that much anymore. Because if he cuts, he's just going to get surrounded, right? Or really messed up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, so the third stone actually makes it much more stronger and more viable to play. And I'm sure you've seen this move, right? So white normally plays this, right?
Yeah.
And then black plays here anyway. So this is the same exact shape we just looked at, just in a different order, right? So if we played here, here, and here, it's the same exact thing between here, here, and here. So this is still very, very good for black. So I don't want you to feel cheated that if you play here, if they play this, there's no cheating, right? Like you shouldn't feel that way. You should feel good that you can play like this and move on. Even when white plays here nowadays, black will even Tanuki, because even if white gets out, black still has a strong enough wall. And if white tries to counterattack it now, you can just counterattack it, right? If white tries to attack this, you can just, as I said, attack it. So maybe something like this or this.
Okay.
So it's a pretty tough cookie. That's why nowadays a lot of people will Tanuki here. But you don't have to if you don't want to. But just know a lot of people do. All right. So this is just an outdated Joseki, and I just wanted to let you know why it was outdated, where the weakness is, and some better alternatives. So this one move is good, this move is good, and this move is good if you plan to do the double Hane.
Okay.
But I would try and take out the turning, because it's an older style. I would try and take it out. All right. So in the class, we did talk about this and like this, but I actually looked it over with the computer, and it likes your move. It also enjoys A and C, but this move was fine. So I was wrong. I'm more used to using this wall to attack, right? So we went over this in the class, the double digit GQ class, but I'm used to something more like like this, or and to guide this to the wall while you make points, right? Even if you play something like this, because it's going to be pretty, white's going to have to do some like running away, and chances are you can make points on two sides. Maybe this is my older traditional style, but this is how I would have played. But the computer said this was fine, and it also said this and this was good. So I just wanted to let you know about that. All right. So everything else was fine. This was interesting. So I never seen this. And then I looked it over and I realized that this was really good. So there's a reason for it. Did I write it down? Yeah, I did. Okay. So this move is only pressuring this side and it helps white fix. And although you did get the two stones, white got a really good position here, right? Because originally, we had, well, I guess it was white's kind of corner, but it just it looked really good for white, in my opinion, compared to black right now. Just because black is facing white right now, but I guess you could say white is facing black. So, but when we look at the alternative, when black plays here, this threatens both sides. So it makes that very similar pinwheel shape, right? And so if white plays this or this, black can come down and kill these stones, right? Black might even want to play here first. And then if white really wants to escape, at least you can still take the two stones. And this looks pretty nice. You get more of the corner out of this. And then if white comes on this side, well, then, yeah, you just kill the two stones. So I just wanted to show you that this puts pressure on both these groups here. So 1 and 2, whereas this usually only puts pressure on one. I think white could have got out this way. So like if you try the double hane here, it doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
And so black has to play something like this, and then white comes out. And even though it's a little flat, once white comes back here, I'm pretty sure black will get killed before white does.
Yeah.
And so this would have been really nice for white, which is the cause of this error here. So when it comes to the pinwheel shape, remember why we make these pinwheels? And the reason is because we're just constantly trying to capture the weaker stone, right? So we're trying to capture this one. And then white says, well, no, you can't capture me. And then you can see white's trying to capture this one. And so this pinwheel shape affects both sides significantly. Whereas when we play something like this, it only affects one side. And it's not as efficient, right? Because you can get hit on the head of two stones. So this is a very important shape, and it was very useful in this little diagram here, this little instance. Does that make everything make sense so far?
Yeah.
Okay. So this was good. This was bad. But to be fair, I almost never see this tight pincer. So even I had to look up the Joseki to I'm like, well, I knew that this looked wrong, but I couldn't, tell you why until, now. But the idea is that you kind of have to start the fight immediately, because this is so directly trying to hurt you. Then you have to start the fight. It starts into immediate fighting. So some common Joseki is just jumping forward, which is very simple to remember. And then black jumps forward, you jump forward, black jumps forward, and then you come back to make sure that this stone is cut from this stone, because we need that nice diagonal connection to cut these two. But using the attachment to create the diagonal is the best way to do it. and then you come back and attack this stone. So you have enough strength now to come back and attack this. I'm not the biggest fan of these jumping battle type fighting games, but they happen all the time. And it's good to know how to at least start the fight.
Yeah.
And then, some other common ones. You can review these, but they're pretty simple, I think. Like this is it's very similar to what we just watched, right? We attach to break these two up. We use the pullback Tetsuji, and then we just jump to make sure that these stay separate. And then we'll probably come back to attack this black stone here. But yeah, this was a very severe attack, and usually the idea of bunkering down is not a good idea, right? Like I'm sure you hear it a lot when you get your handicap games reviewed. But yeah, so I assume you played this just to make sure that these two are separate. Is that right?
Yeah, I remember that if it was a side base with like 3 spaces between, and I played in the middle, the way to prevent them from connecting with that Tetsuji that you first try to connect under and then you sacrifice something and connect over. It was a diagonal.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. This one.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
and then so when you use the diagonal now, this doesn't work anymore, right?
Yeah.
So that makes sense. And the diagonal does cut them off, right? And so it's very similar. The difference with this one is on the fourth line.
Yeah.
So there's a little more going on. And then the attachment here also creates the diagonal, just in a better form.
Yeah.
So attaching usually is nice. So either jumping, this one, which you can, if you're interested, just go to the Joseki button. This one looks really complicated to me, and I don't like it. So, I mean, it doesn't look too complicated, but I don't know. It just looks really crazy to me. But yeah, so I wouldn't do this like flying move here, but it is the second choice, so it is something good to study. But yeah, feel free to just hit the Joseki button and just review it like once or twice to really get it down. But yeah, knowing that to jump out and attack is like a very common situation, almost in any pincer. All right. So white answered you because white didn't want you to dig into the corner. And then this one, I assume, is just so, because if you jump, were you like worried about this maybe?
It doesn't look like a problem when I look at it.
Yeah, this looks like too much, right? Like you're going too much. So for me, I would have jumped here. The computer liked this move. And the reason is because when white breaks the tiger's mouth shape, then you can play this and you can't get disconnected. So I was like, oh, this is a nice little thing. The computer's example was like this. And so we can see that black just undercut white. And as long as black can continue to stay out here, then this white wall isn't going to make any points really. So this was a nice little combo here. But for me, if I was playing this game, I would have just thought of jumping to keep this weak and this still pushed down, right? But yeah, this going down here looked a little too defensive, and the shape just seemed a little off, which ended up happening. So you ended up trying to counterattack this, I assume.
Yeah.
And then you got crushed, right? Like you got crushed inside. So definitely I felt like you needed one more move out here. But the computer said these moves were fine. You just had to find this one, which I don't know if I would have even found this move, but I mean, I would have definitely read it out. So when he cuts, you get to keep pushing on this, right? Because he doesn't want to get hit on the head.
Hmm.
Because if he does, then obviously you're out, right? You can just get out. Um, so as he has to keep going, this is just good for you, right? You're like getting out. I think I have the example. Oh yeah, it was this attachment here. So after the push, then you attach, and then you're pretty much out at this point. He has to keep answering you because if he doesn't, then you get in front of him, and this is just really going to hurt him.
Yeah.
So um, I assume, yeah, with this move, I assume you couldn't find these answers either. Is that right?
Yeah, I couldn't. No.
Even with this one, it's still pretty good because you can see that this combination with these stones now really hurt this. So one common way to remember these hanes that work in this sense is let me fix something here. So let's pretend like white was like this, and it should be black's turn, and black plays this. White tries to attach to defend itself, but this doesn't really work well, right? Because if you hane, and then I don't know, does white? I wouldn't even know, but if white plays something like this, you can see that you've gotten your a bit of your spike inside his territory, right? And it all comes down to these like two hane attacks. So even if it was like this, well, that's not the best example, but maybe like this. No, I think the crosscut is the best example, but um yeah, I mean you could even bring this further, I guess, but anyway, have you ever used this before where somebody's attached to you
So the
trying to
idea
block their
is to like
territory?
sacrifice a stone in order to get stronger with the other stone, right?
Yeah, yeah. Have you ever used this before?
Not exactly this, but I do the sacrifice a stone to get stronger on the other side.
Yeah, I find I do this quite often because a lot of people will try to attach to get, to save their territory, which is wrong. They should play something like this.
Hmm.
But even then, these attaches still kind of work. Um, yeah, so all right. But yeah, and it goes well with this. If I find another example of this, I'll let you know.
Okay.
But it really goes well with the idea of, like you said, you pretty much sacrifice one stone to get out from the other side, and it works the on the other side too, right? So if it went like this, you can see it was better when you had this one stone here because now because of this one stone, if it's the same thing, then we have this really nice enclosure here.
Yeah.
Okay. So this was just far too slow. So when I look at this group here, it looks extremely weak to me and can be undercut, right? Like this would stink if white has to play this way because you can see your building points while making his really small and possibly even killing it, right? Because if I don't know, let's say white Tanuki and cared about this stone or something, you could jump under here, right? And so it really doesn't have a base now, right?
Yeah.
So instinctually, I always want to crunch my opponent, right? I want to like hit him on both sides. And so this move, and the computer thought this move was also very valuable. I'm assuming because yeah, I didn't see the variation farther, but I can see that it's building a cup this way. But I would much rather undercut this to like make it very uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think when I played that, I thought it would be Sente because then I would be able to capture the free stones if they didn't do anything.
Hmm.
Yeah, and then they wouldn't really have a base and it would be easier to attack the group. But I see that if they play something like N17, then it's much easier for them to leave. And it became
Yeah.
a problem.
Yeah, yeah. Yep, and you're right. It became a problem, as you said. So, the idea, usually remains that so this is only worth like 4 points right now,
Mhm.
and then it becomes 6 points. But when we look at the difference between hitting here and like if white has to submit, which white doesn't, white can attach on top. But even if let's say even if white gets the best that white wants, right? Um, you can see that you've gained 3, 6, 9, 12 points here, and you've taken away points from white. So this 12 points plus whatever you took away from white is worth much more than 4 points.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I know we cover a lot of classes with the direction of play and evaluation and like valuing like our areas and stones. It's just something that you'll keep getting harassed about, and then
Mhm.
one day it'll just click, and you'll start like playing it really really on point with finding like these types of moves. But yeah, I mean that's it. This I understand where you were going for. Where you were getting a nice capture and it was hurting white, like maybe you expected this move, right? And then maybe you would have came over here now.
Yeah.
But the stronger the players get, so like this person 7Q, the more they'll be very comfortable with sacrificing stuff to like get a better advantage.
Mhm.
So then as I said, they learn what slow moves are, like taking small points versus taking big points, and then they'll be able to outpace you, and that will keep happening until we get you everybody to the point we need to get them.
Yeah.
um but don't worry, I'll keep helping out with that. um I don't think I saw like any floating moves in this game. So clearly
That's
you've gotten really good at that, right? Like I noticed that. I think like in the class we were doing, we were talking about like a move that defended a lot of territory down here, but it didn't put any pressure. And you were all
Mhm.
like, I'm afraid of these moves now because they look like they're floating, right?
Yeah.
Um, but it's good though. I mean, clearly you're making a lot better judgments. So we're getting pretty much to the end of this. There was a few things. So there's one more bit of piece of advice I can definitely give here. In that, so this group, does this look strong or weak right now?
Well, I learned that if you extend 3 times, it's alive. So if it's alive, it's strong.
Okay. Um, Now what about now? Would white defend
Yes.
and then black gets to connect? So
Hmm.
so this looks good for black then, right? Because black has pretty much separated these stones and it has
Hmm.
connected A and B here, right? So this would be really good. And what I want you to learn from this is to lean on your opponent's weaknesses to get what you want, to get stronger. So in this case, this group is weak when black plays here, because if white breaks this, now white's just dead,
Hmm.
right? This is just a dead group. They can't make two eyes. So black would have to come back, but still, it can't make two eyes, right? And so you can lean on this group um, to get what you want, and this is a really really nice move. I was looking at this for a while, and I was trying to figure out like what would be the best strategy here. Um, and this felt really disjointed because it's like already peeped.
Yeah.
Um, so so yeah. So I found a really nice move, And it goes well with a good principle. And that is like, if
I
you're
thought the
struggling,
principle was to lean on strong groups, because if
well,
you lean on the weak groups, they will become strong.
yes, that's true. So if you lean here and white saves itself, technically it has gotten stronger now, right? So it was a
Mhm.
weak group that got strong now. But if it leads you to getting a better position, then I'm all for it, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And if they sacrifice it, which the computer said that this was more important for white,
Mm.
then you get the whole thing, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So yes, if it's 1v1, so like if we just take away all these stones like here, then yes, this would probably be bad timing to play this because all you did was make a group strong, right? When you could have used this for like a co-fight or something, right? Like if you were fighting a
Mhm.
co, then you'd be good. But in this case, you're really weak. Like once we got to this point, it I'm sure you were feeling the pressure, right? Like white black doesn't have any eyes right now and is fully surrounded by white stones all over the place. And so now that you're weak, now you have to lean on those groups. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. But yes, you if you're trying to kill something, then don't lean on it because that will just make it stronger, which in
Yeah.
your case, like you said, this will make white live, but it helps you out significantly. And to
Mhm.
be honest, white still owes a move. So if white plays somewhere else, like here or something, then this is starting to look a little suspect. Maybe it should be fine, but there's definitely some foul play afoot.
Yeah.
If you, especially if you leave it for like a co or something, right?
Mhm.
Um, but okay. So we'll just uh quickly do the recap. So facing Komoku's, the computer doesn't mind if you don't play it, but at least with my teachings, um, from what I've learned is you should always go for the bigger areas, and this is literally the biggest area now
Mhm.
because there's so much space compared to this one. So this feels, if white has to respond like this or something, this feels pretty good for black. Even if black just comes back and plays something like this or this, you can see that it's developing both sides very nicely. Um, this one's a bit outdated, and there's reasons for it, which we saw that white can poke at a lot of weaknesses, especially if white gets a group here. And then this becomes just like a liability, if anything. So having this one extra move um, now makes this weakness really not matter as much because you're fine. You can just keep going. You can attack through. And so having 3 stones is just stronger than having 2 stones. But this is still viable this turn here if you plan to use the double Hane. That was good. This is all good. When it comes to pinwheels, remember to try and find the move that effectively kills both sides, right? Like if white moves this way, then white dies here. If white moves this way, then white dies here. And so this just makes things really simple. Your pattern, I'd never seen it before, but it worked out pretty well. But it shouldn't have, right? So if white
Yeah.
played here and like black has to play something like this, then white can come back and be perfectly fine. So your opponent messed up here, but that's okay. So that was good for you. Um, I understand the diagonal. Just in most cases, you can use the attachment and pullback, which will give you the diagonal.
Mhm.
If you're worried about this just leads to a lot of complicated fighting again. But if white plays like this, then you can come down and then you can do this, which is the same exact thing we're looking at
Yeah.
here. So now this becomes in danger and this becomes in danger. So that's why you usually don't see people play this inside Hane often. It's because it leads to what we just saw over here. So most people play on the outside, and then you get to pull back, and it creates the diagonal you wanted. Um, this reading the Hanes here, even though they're gonna get cut, you can read the aftermath and see if it's worth it to you. Most of the time, it is. So that's something you can just practice. And if it keeps coming up, of course, I'll keep talking to you about it.
Yeah.
But it is very useful. This whole even if it gets cut thing, because if you can maximize the sacrifice, then it's usually worth it. I think in the class, one of my own games, it was down here in the corner. I purposely sacrificed 2 stones to make a net over here. I know I went over it Saturday in the class. I don't know if you remember it though, but it was a very similar topic. And then so moves. So this only gives you 4 points. When this move would get you 12 and takes away from white and makes white uncomfortable. So I know that you thought white would play here, but as you get stronger and stronger, you'll be more comfortable at sacrificing stones. So this person has become much more comfortable at sacrificing stones and, just extended here and said, okay, take my 3 stones and now I'm going to start really hurting you. So this is a very good lesson that's going to take a bit for you to get used to, but when you do, you are going to get stronger. You're going to get, it's when you play slow moves, I wouldn't say they're wasted moves, but they definitely feel like wasted moves. Yeah. So, the less moves you waste, the stronger you're going to get, I assure you. So this is a very, very good lesson to learn here. And my last little bit was, if you're in danger, then you should lean on your opponent. And even though they get stronger, you also get stronger. So that's the point of leaning on them. So that's that.